Many triathletes panic during the open water swim in a race, not because they're unfit, but because the environment feels unfamiliar. So the biggest swim mistake is preparing for the distance, but not preparing for the sensation of race day swimming. In this video, I'll show you how to make the swim feel calmer, safer, and more controlled, especially if you've ever experienced shortness of breath, panic breathing, or that horrible feeling of wanting to stop in the first few minutes. This is aimed mainly at triathletes, but the same advice will also help you if you're preparing for an open water swimming event, because the challenge is often less about the distance itself and more about how the environment feels. We'll cover how to practice open water swimming properly and what to do before the start, and one simple breathing cue that can help you stay composed when the race begins. And later on, I'll share a bonus mistake for competitive age group triathletes in case you're already confident in open water. So here's the important reframe. Your goal is not just to swim well or fast, your goal is to start the event feeling safe, calm, and in control. Because in most triathlons, the swim is only the start of a much longer event. If the first 10 minutes leave you tense and breathless, that can affect more than just your swim split. In a moment, I'll give you a simple way to prepare for that first 10 minutes, so race day feels less like a shock and more like something you've already rehearsed. So training in a swimming pool is still a really good idea, and for most age group triathletes and open water swimmers, it should make up a large part of your swim preparation because it's safe, controlled, measurable, and easy to repeat consistently. You can practice technique, build your swim fitness, and use structured intervals without worrying about waves or sighting or the temperature or other swimmers. And that makes the pool one of the best places to improve. But the mistake is assuming that if you can swim the distance in a pool, you're ready for an open water swim race. Racing in open water feels different. You may not see the bottom, your wetsuit might feel tight across your chest and your shoulders, the water might be colder than you thought, you might need to sight for buoys, and you may be swimming closer to other swimmers. So as your race gets closer, it's worth practicing in open water if you can do so safely, and if the conditions are reasonably similar to race day. That last part matters actually, because if your race is in a warm, calm lake, then practicing in a cold, choppy sea probably isn't ideal preparation anyway. It might make you tougher, but it won't make you calmer for the race that you're actually doing. For example, if I'm preparing in the UK for a springtime IRONMAN 70.3 that's in a hot country, it may not be realistic to replicate the race conditions at home. The water temperature is just too different. In that situation, I might only manage one short practice swim at the race venue the day before. But even that's better than nothing because it lets me feel the water, the wetsuit, the visibility and the environment before race morning. This is actually something that we include into all our triathlon training plans. But we also include an alternative option because open water practice is not always practical or possible. The principle is to build your fitness in the pool and then add the most specific open water rehearsal that you can realistically manage. So the key lesson about practicing open water swimming before your race is that you're not doing it to prove how brave you are. You're trying to remove the element of surprise from race day. And surprise can be quite a big trigger for panic breathing, so you really want to avoid that. The second mistake is starting the race completely cold. Not all events allow a swim warm-up, but many have a warm-up area or a short warm-up window before your wave starts. If you get that chance, use it. A warm-up doesn't need to be long, just swim gently for a few minutes, put your face in the water, practice a few relaxed breaths and maybe include a few short pickups. But the aim is not to tire yourself out, it's just to make the first minute of the race feel familiar. I've had races where I did not warm up properly. I ran into the sea, cold water rushed down the back of my wetsuit, and almost immediately my breathing became short and rushed. I was fit enough to swim the distance, but my fitness was not the issue here, the shock response was. If your event doesn't allow a warm-up, the next best option is simple. Go to the water's edge and splash water over your face, over your head, down the front and the back of your wetsuit, and let some water in before the start. It may feel cold at first, but that is the point. You want to experience that sensation before the race begins, not during the first few strokes. And once the water is inside your wetsuit, your body heat will start to warm that thin layer. And this small habit can make the start feel less abrupt. The final tip is the one that can make the biggest difference though, if you struggle with panic breathing. At the start of an open water swim, your stress level is already high. You're nervous, the start may be crowded, and you're trying to swim, sight, avoid contact, and settle into a rhythm all at once. When that happens, many athletes focus too much on breathing in and not enough on breathing out. They grab a quick breath, put their face back in the water, hold on to the air, and then blast it out just before the next inhale. That pattern can make you feel as though you're not getting enough air. And part of the reason is that carbon dioxide is not being cleared enough. And carbon dioxide is one of the signals that drives your urge to breathe. So if you keep holding in your breath, the urge to breathe can feel stronger and more urgent. That sense of urgency can lead to rushed breathing, lifting your head, shortening your stroke, and sometimes full panic breathing or hyperventilation, which I've experienced myself a couple of times. The solution is to pace the start sensibly and focus on your exhaling. So don't treat the swim like a short standalone race. In triathlon, it is the first part of one long flowing event. And if you're doing a standalone open water swim event, the same idea applies. You don't want the first few minutes to feel rushed and panicky, because that can make the rest of the swim feel much harder than it needs to. Your job is not to win the first 100 meters. Your job is to stay controlled, settle into a rhythm, and build it from there. So in the first few minutes, swim within yourself, let the frantic swimmers go ahead if needed, focus on rhythm rather than speed, and then once your breathing settles, you can build the effort. Then use this cue: bubbles first, breathe second. So when your face is in the water, breathe out steadily through your nose, mouth, or both. You should see a gentle stream of bubbles rather than holding your breath and then dumping the air out at the last second. That steady exhale helps clear the carbon dioxide, gives your breathing a rhythm, and makes the next inhale feel less rushed. You can practice this in the swimming pool first as well. So during easy swims, notice whether you're holding your breath underwater. Then shift your attention to the bubbles coming out of your nose or mouth. You're looking for a steady stream of bubbles while your face is in the water, rather than holding your breath and then exhaling in one big burst just before you breathe in. And then as race day gets closer, rehearse that same feeling in open water if you can do so safely. So here's the bonus mistake I mentioned, which applies to you if you're already comfortable in open water. And the mistake is starting in the wrong place. For some swimmers, it means they start too far back because they want to avoid trouble. If you're stronger than the athletes around you, you can quickly end up swimming into slower swimmers, lifting your head, changing direction, and completely losing your rhythm. But the opposite mistake is common too. Some swimmers seed themselves ahead of their true ability because they want to benefit from drafting. And drafting can help in open water, but only if you can hold that pace without pushing too hard. The tricky part is that race starts are never perfectly organised. Even if you seed yourself fairly, some swimmers around you may have placed themselves too far forward. So the goal is not to find a perfect position. The goal is to choose a sensible starting area, then stay adaptable in the first few minutes. If you do meet slower swimmers early on, don't try and surge hard to get past them every time. Just look for the cleanest line, keep your breathing settled, and move around them gradually where possible. If you find yourself with faster swimmers and the effort feels too high, let them go rather than forcing the draft. For newer swimmers, starting wider or slightly back can be sensible, but for competitive age groupers, the goal is to start where you can benefit slightly from drafting without being pulled into a pace that leaves you feeling too tired for the bike and run. You're looking for the fastest, sustainable swim, not just the fastest swim that you can possibly manage. So start in a sensible place, then solve the swim as it unfolds. Have you ever had a moment of panic breathing in open water, and what helped you get it back under control? Let me know in the comments section, because your experience might help another swimmer watching this. The next video on screen will help you avoid the 5 most common freestyle swimming mistakes. And if you're building up to a triathlon, you can also have a look at our Beginner's Guide to Triathlon Training playlist. Subscribe to MyProCoach for more calm, practical triathlon training advice every fortnight, and hopefully I'll see you next time.